Hey, you're listening to It's Okay to Have an Accent, and boy, what an episode this was. Listen, I know I say that about every episode, but hey, it's all true. It's not my fault, is it? Well, maybe it is a little bit, but that's not the point. Listen, in this episode, I talked to actor Farah Merani. Great episode, great talk. We talk about what it is like for her to be an actor, the process of being an actor, how she came to be an actor, the nervousness, the feelings, the anxiety, in auditions. We talk about what it's like for her to have an accent and much more. It's a great episode, great talk. I do sincerely hope you have as much of a good time as I did talking to actor Farah Merani. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Sit back and enjoy. It doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you're from, it's okay to have an accent.
Hello.
So good to see you.
Nice to meet you, Dan. What a pleasure.
Listen, I am truly blessed for having you here. Thank you so much. It's an honor to have your presence on my show. I have two questions for you, and they are both very, very important. The first question is, how should I pronounce your name? Do you
Perfect.
like? Yes.
How do you say it? Just tell me how you instinctively
I think I would have pronounced it like Farah.
Okay, so it's Farah.
Farah, but with an open sound. Farah.
That's right.
Right.
Farah.
And your last name would be Merani. So Farah Merani.
Yeah,
wow,
perfect.
It's a beautiful name.
Yeah.
Is it your artistic name or your birth name?
It's my birth name. It's what I was born and raised with.
Right. How cool.
Yeah.
How cool. Listen, I've got this question, and I usually tell my guests that this is the most important question of the episode. So really do take your time to answer that, and answer it with all honesty. So the question is, Farah, how are you today? How are you doing today?
I am so well, Dan.
Are you? That's great.
I am so well.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Genuinely, I am very, very well. All the things that have brought me here today, I'm grateful for.
Right.
I'm happy.
Right. How is 2023 treating you? Because today is 125th of January already. The month is so long, right? I've run out of
Feels
food
like it sometimes,
and water,
right?
And yeah. So how is 2023 treating you so far?
Well, so far, touch wood, it's been very calm for a lot of reasons. Like in previous years, naturally, we were on lockdown and we had a whole different set of things to contend with. And fortunately, I haven't had to contend with any of those. Some significant kind of life things are happening around us. So there's, we're preparing for that, and some work stuff has picked up, which is always nice.
Right.
But I had a very very easeful start to 2023, which is really nice.
That's great. Yeah. Are you the kind of person who sets New Year's resolutions, goals for yourself?
I don't really set resolutions because I feel like I'm just setting myself up for failure.
Right.
Something actually my manager, right? My manager actually said this to me last year, asked me of this last year. And that was to set an intention. What was my intention for the year? And what I've expanded on that is what do I want to fill my year with? What do I want my year to be full of? And a big one for me is I really aspire to have this year filled with a lot more connection and communication and sharing of my stories in all its facets. Because I do a lot of voice work, and act and I write and do a lot of other things. So, just sharing my story more authentically is something that I really want, and I'm very committed to doing more intentionally this year.
Right.
And then the other part is just, I know it sounds almost counterintuitive, but to give myself a little bit more space, like to not necessarily slow down a bit,
Right.
but because I'm not the kind of person who likes to press pause a lot, or slow motion. I'm a go, 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 let's do.
Really? Do you feel under
Um,
pressure with that? Do you feel like, okay, there is a lot on my shoulders right now. I need to take a pause. I need to take a moment.
yeah, yeah, 100%. I do. I definitely feel that. So this year I'm being very mindful of, like, when I feel the need to take a nap, I'm going to be like, you know what? I need to take a nap.
Are you a nap
Turn my phone
person?
off. I love taking
Man, I'm a
naps.
nap person. If I don't take a nap,
I
like
love it.
the day doesn't work for
I
me.
Right? Like, I just feel like that 30-minute break where your body gets to lie down, shut off for a minute,
Right.
process. Like, I come back so much more rejuvenated.
Do you?
And it makes sense why I used to fall asleep in school all the time, because I always needed an afternoon nap.
Well, the thing for me is that my naps usually last like 1 hour, sometimes 1 hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
And there are days when it's rainy or when I'm really tired that like it'll last like 2 hours, and that's a long
Oh,
time because
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, if it's almost
I mean, if
like it's not a nap.
Well, if you have the opportunity or like the privilege to take that time, I'm like, do it, take it.
Yeah,
If you make your own
but
schedule,
that's
go
the
for
thing.
it.
That's the thing. Like when I do it, I usually feel a little bit guilty. Like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have,
Um,
like spent my time more wisely and
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, that's a whole other side of it. I wrestled with it a lot when I was in my younger days, where I would take time off and I'd be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have
Right.
taken that time for myself. And now I'm like, yes, I'm going to take
Screw
my time
that.
for myself. Of course. I'm a much happier person. I'm a
That's
more
great.
productive person when I take that time.
That's
It's like,
awesome.
making time to exercise every day, or to make a
Hmm.
good meal every day, to sit down and actually eat properly. That's so important. If we don't do that, then we're not taking care of the very basic needs of our bodies.
Right. Right.
So important.
And do you have like deadlines to meet, or is your work more a little bit free in a way that you get to control, you get to choose when you're going to sit down and work, or
Mm,
do you have like a
it's
deadline
a
to meet?
it's a combination.
Uh-huh.
So I get a lot of appointments. So, for example, I get a lot of auditions. So I have to
Right.
record myself, either, if it's for voice or if it's on camera. So I have to record myself, and it's due by a certain day. So in that sense, I get a lot of deadlines on a weekly, daily basis. I get a lot of deadlines.
Ooh.
However, within the framework of my day, I get to essentially choose when to do those things, right? So, like, if I have 3 voice auditions to tape, I could do them all first thing in the morning, get them done if they're due tomorrow. Or I could space them out throughout the day. I'm working on a couple of grant applications for writing projects, and those have very firm deadlines, right? So I got to make sure that I organize my time and do what I need to get my application in on time,
And
right?
are
And
you good at that? Are you good at organizing your time?
yeah,
Are you good at
yeah,
handling
it's
the pressure? I mean, I think I know this is more of a silly question because you're an actor, so I believe you
yeah.
are. But how do you deal with it? How do you deal with the pressure? Like I have to get things done, and there's a lot of things on my plate. How do you deal with that? Do you meditate
My
or?
calendar.
Oh, right,
I
right,
am almost to the point of neurotic about my calendar. If if it's not in my calendar, it's not going to happen.
right.
So everything from grocery shopping to going to the gym to doing my tapes to meeting with friends, like everything goes in my calendar,
We can't
because
rely on
otherwise
our brains all the time, right?
I know, I just can't. I genuinely can't.
Right,
And even when I was in high school, like, I remember growing up, everything would go in my book, my diary. Like, I would write everything down.
right, right.
So
So
for me, it's the best way to organize my
right, and
thoughts, my
you've
day.
always been the organized type.
Yes,
And is it
always.
something that you were born with, like naturally, or is it something that you developed, that you built over time?
I think I was born with it. I
Mm,
do. I think it's something that has always
that
been.
sucks. Because I wasn't born with that. And I need to learn how to be more, like time responsible. I was gonna
Yeah,
ask you with tips, but if the first tip is be born with that,
be
then I
born
don't
with
think.
it. I think you can practice it though. Like my husband is like that. He's not when it comes to time management, that is not his forte. And that's okay because everybody has their own style. It's just when you're living in relationship with somebody, it becomes important, that we
Right,
negotiate between the two of us. So like I sometimes have to be more flexible to accommodate his style and his way of doing things and vice
right.
versa. So what I do is anytime we have a joint task or appointment or whatnot, we have a family calendar. So I put it in the calendar. He
Wow.
gets it, I get it, we're on the
You
same
have a
page.
family
And if he
calendar.
we do, and if he doesn't look at the calendar, that's on him. But he's getting way better at making sure that he acknowledges the calendar invites and pays attention to those. Um, because at a certain point, like fundamentally, this may sound a little harsh, but I do believe that respecting a person's time is respecting a person's value, regardless
Right,
of what the relationship is. And
right,
if people are constantly late, that to me is disrespecting my time because it's basically like saying your time is more important
that is
than
true.
my time, that you are okay with being late. Now, if extraneous circumstances abide, like that's totally
Sure.
fine,
Uh-huh.
right? I live in LA. Traffic is horrendous and you can never predict it. So like traffic is a real thing. But like I said, fundamentally, I really, really do believe that punctuality is a form of respect, of expressing respect and
Right,
appreciation for another person. So
right,
I'm,
right.
I'm a stickler for punctuality.
Now, is every actor punctual or not? Or this is
Oh gosh, I mean, it's like asking, is every human on this planet punctual? Because there are as many kinds of actors
right.
as there are people, right? Um, I think film sets run on almost on a military style
Mm-hmm.
platform. So, we have often like really early starts to the day. There's a lot to do. There are a lot of people involved. So it's really important that people are on their A game when it comes to that.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm sure there are actors in the world who choose not to follow suit, but I do believe, like I said, I think punctuality is a form of respect. So if my call
Right,
time is 5:30 in the morning, I will be there at 5:30 in the morning. And
right.
if I'm running late, I will tell the AD or like whoever's in charge of, receiving talent. I
Mm-hmm.
will notify my contact person and be like, I'm running late. I'm sorry. Because yeah, I think it's a really basic form of respect.
Now, have you ever shown up for an audition and I don't know, the person responsible for the audition wasn't there and you had to wait for them or
Oh yeah. I mean,
really?
nowadays we're not going into rooms and auditioning in person
Really? I
almost
didn't
at
know
all
that.
because everything went virtual. So,
Wow.
I mean, actors' bread and butter are self tapes. Like we tape from home or go
Okay.
to a studio or tape with a friend.
Okay, but
Um,
sorry, but is it a better thing? Is it better for you or do you prefer the previous way?
you know,
The good old
it's
way.
like there are benefits to both experiences. So
Mhm.
what's really nice about going in person, and I just actually had my first in-person audition on Friday, and I was reminded of this. That nerves are real. I still get
I
nervous,
was going to ask you
and it's
that. How
important. Oh my
cool.
gosh, so important. And I think it's important to feel that as well. Like
Really?
nerves are important because it reminds you of being like on your
Present.
game and present exactly. The other part is like meeting and seeing other actors in the community, so it's like a really great opportunity to connect with people and nurture
Right.
friendships. Because if we don't see each other in the rooms, we don't see each
The
other ever. We're
network you
never,
can
very
make,
rarely
right?
going to work together, right?
Right.
So
Right.
seeing other friends is really great. And then building an in-person and nurturing a relationship with casting directors that, I mean, you can only do that in person is one of the biggest things that I miss.
Uh-huh.
I really do miss. On the flip side, though, being able to do tapes at home gives us a lot of freedom to do it whenever I want, wear whatever
Right.
I want, like waist down, right? If you're only seeing me waist up,
Do
you
it
don't
again
need to
and
know I'm
again,
wearing
how
my
many times it's
leggings.
necessary, right?
Well, to that point, I try to give myself a rule. I try not to let myself do
Really?
more than 5 takes
Wow.
because I think the first take is just the getting it out. The second take
Okay.
is finding the groove. Third take is usually a solid take. So I'm like, great, I got one solid take. And then after that, it's like, let me try something different. So then I try something different and I mess up. So like, let me try that again. And then that's the fifth take. And then usually by 5 takes, I've got two options for the scene that I want to do. So I
Okay.
think it does a disservice if we allow ourselves to do too many takes because real life is not like that.
It
If you go
makes a
to
lot of
set,
sense.
you're not going to get the
It's like you're
opportunity to do it.
cheating, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you're
yeah.
making
Because then you're
yourself
like,
tired as well.
I
Right.
mean, that's another huge part of it. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think actors, like, we get really finicky about really specific things that
I
we don't
imagine.
need to be finicky about because we can just like
I
just let
totally would
go.
do that. I'm not an actor, but that would be me as an actor. I would be like, okay,
Yeah.
this is not perfect. It has to be perfect. But
Yeah.
wow.
I know a lot of people who do that, and it's you're not going to get a better performance if you get like an excellent take. If you try to do like one small difference, it's like dominoes. You're going to knock something else out of place. And so I think it's really important to also acknowledge, like when you've done solid work, just take it for what it is.
And even when you are in your house, like recording yourself, you still get nervous.
Not so much at home.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes if it's something that I'm really excited by, or if there's a lot of text that I have to learn, I might get
Hmm.
like destabilized by that. But I don't actually get nervous at home. I get more nervous going into the room. Like that to me is I was reminded of that feeling of like, oh, right, I have
That's interesting.
butterflies in my stomach.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. I play the piano, and like when I'm playing the piano all
Oh,
by myself at home, I can play just fine. It sounds beautiful. Every note is the way I want it to be. But the minute I press the recording
George.
button, man,
Yeah.
everything just goes downhill, just goes south, and then, it's a mess. I don't know what it is. I think it's the fact that, okay, I'm being recorded, even like by
Yep.
myself.
Yeah.
It's. Now, were you ever like that, or did you overcome it, or did you get used to it?
That is practice. That is 100% practice.
Right.
Because I've definitely in, my early days experienced that where as soon as I hit record, I'd be like, oh, clamming up.
I don't
I
know
don't
what
know
to
what to
do
say.
anymore, right?
Ah! Yeah.
Right, right.
But that definitely, yeah, it definitely adjusts with practice.
And today got to the point where you look at the camera and it's as if the camera wasn't there. Like
Yeah.
it's as natural as can be for you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, sometimes on set, like I was on a huge set and like a giant production on a show called C for Apple TV. And
Wow, how
it was
cool.
like, it was so cool because they also had like, it was such a big scale production. They had multiple
Okay.
cameras, giant set design, these gorgeous costumes, beautiful actors. And I just remember walking on set my first day and going, wow, this is a lot. This is a lot going on. Okay. Whew, I felt
Wow, I
like all
can
the
only
butterflies and I
imagine.
felt all the things. And I was like, okay, there are the cameras, clock where the cameras are,
Uh-huh.
but don't pay attention to them. Like, pretend they're not there. Just look at your actors. And
Wow.
honestly, that's like at the end of the day, that's always the most important thing is who are you speaking to? Like, who's your partner? Forget
Okay.
about everything else. Focus on the relationship because regardless of where the camera is, if we are in relationship, if we are connected, act as actors,
Uh-huh.
as characters, as people, as humans, then the camera will pick it up. So it's also that, like, take in the whole thing, see everything, be smart about it. Like, where are my lights? Where are my marks? Like, where do I have to go? Where are the other actors? Where's, my microphone? If there's a boom, like a microphone over
I
top or
had no
whatnot.
idea.
So
Wow.
like take a whole like 180 view of what's in front of me and behind me. So 360
Okay.
in case I have to move, and then let that go, and then focus on the person that I'm supposed to speak to or the thing or whatever it is, and then just zoom in on that. Just focus on that and let everything else do its thing. That to me was like that. I remember a moment like that where I was like, "Oh, this is what it feels like to know what I'm doing." Okay. I can take comfort that I think I know what I'm doing, even though I've got raging nerves and
Oh
I'm
man. I
feeling
can only
like
imagine.
so overwhelmed. Yeah. It's
Wow.
just going, I mean, it's like anything, right? Just go back to what you know and what you trust. If you know
Right.
you're good at something, just like go back to doing that thing. And like if that's your hook that keeps you
Trust your
grounded,
gut, right?
makes, yeah, exactly. Trust your gut.
And but like it's okay to be nervous. It's human. But the thing is, as an
Hmm.
actor, you can't let it show. Am I right?
It's funny because I feel like you have to let it show, but
Really?
we have to let it affect us in a way that serves our work, not in a way that throws us off. So like
Okay.
for example, if I am feeling really, really uncomfortable in a situation
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't serve me in the context of the character, it's really important that I acknowledge, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable about something. What is it that I'm feeling uncomfortable about? Is it a me thing, like an internal thing? Can I go step away, do some breathing exercises and recalibrate myself? Or is it because of something external? Like, am I not trusting my scene partner? Do I feel intimidated by the director, or am I being pressured by someone? Like, I think it's really important to acknowledge those feelings,
Right.
but to not let ourselves get overridden by them. Because
Mm.
at a certain point, like you do have to do the work, which is to be present.
And you have that freedom. For example, let's say you're in the set and you go, okay, listen, I'm not feeling comfortable. I need a moment. Please give me 5 minutes. You can do that.
Depending on the context, yes. And depending on the scale of the show and your role in it. Like if it's like 30 seconds to action, now's not the time to take your moment unless it's like a very, very pressing, important thing. Um, but as soon as the director calls cut, if you have if you're able to take a moment, you can ask for it. Like, do you mind if I just take 2 minutes? I'm just not feeling good. And 9 times out of 10, you should be allowed to do that because
Right.
that's the respectful thing, first of
Uh-huh.
all.
Okay.
And if it's a genuine like discomfort that is, if it's going to help your mental health, it's going to keep you safe. Like if it's that kind of thing, absolutely. Like we have to be advocates for
And
ourselves.
it's gonna
Otherwise,
help you
I
with
mean,
the scene,
actors,
right?
well, that's the other part of it. It'll help you with your work. If you take that 2 minutes to just step away, recalibrate, and then come back, it'll help you with your work. Rather than trying to like work through it or like fight through it, you know?
Wow, how exciting! Listen, I've this is amazing. I didn't know it was like that. I had no idea. Like, if I were the director, I would try to make sure that the actors were like as comfortable as they could be because
Hmm.
as a director, I want the scene to be filmed perfectly. I want things to be
Yeah.
smooth, So everyone has to be comfortable. Everyone has to be,
Yeah.
feeling ready. Wow, how
Yeah. I
cool.
mean, yeah, I have definitely worked with teams and directors who are like that. I've also worked with other directors who are more interested and more focused on getting the shot, working with
Okay.
the lead actors if I'm not one of the primary actors. Like,
Uh-huh.
there's all different kinds of relationships and egos at play.
Oh, I
Um,
see. I see.
which is, it's a very real part of not only this industry, but almost any industry.
Right,
So
right. And how long have you been doing that?
I mean, I started in my childhood, I started dancing and I was in musical theater, so like I was always performing in some way, but
Right.
I didn't take it very serious. I mean, I did take it seriously, but not professionally. My parents certainly didn't. But then I had a moment where I was like, when I was about 18, just as I was graduating high school, and I realized after an impactful experience that being on stage, performing, telling stories can really change people's lives. Like it can affect people in really powerful ways. And I was like, this is what I want to do. So I made a deal with my dad, and I was allowed to go to university. I had to go to university. That was a non-negotiable. And I was able to go do a drama program at university. And my dad's words were, "For your first degree, you can do what you want, but for your
Wow.
second degree, then we talk."
That's a supporting
Well, by
dad.
yeah, yeah, very much so. Um, by the time I was graduating, I was like, I don't want to do a second degree. I don't want to do anything but be an actor. And the only way you're going to see me as a lawyer, because that's what their secret intent, I'm sure, was. Uh, I said to my dad, the only way you're ever going to see me as a lawyer is the day you see me on Law and Order. And he basically held me to that for a very long time.
How
And
did he
then
react?
he was speechless. Honestly, he didn't know what to say. And I think he was laughing on the inside.
Wow. Wow. So pretty much it says
Yeah.
you're allowed to do what you want to do as long as your second degree is, and then he would choose. Then he said law.
Yeah,
I see.
basically.
I see.
Yeah.
So you did major in acting.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And then I ended up moving to England, and I did get a second degree. I got a master's in European classical acting. So I went to drama
Wow. Look at
school
that. Look at
again
that.
and got another degree in drama.
You kind
So,
of broke the
you
deal with
know,
your dad though, huh?
I totally did. I mean, I'm the apple of my father's eye. I also realize that. And, he always both my parents have always wanted the best for me. And I've always been the kind of child to want to do well in everything that I do.
Right.
So, I think I can only imagine how challenging it must have been for them to wrap their head around the idea that here they have this incredibly talented young woman, this child of theirs, who now wants to go off and be an artist when they're both medical professionals. So it's like, how did she want to pursue that? Like, I think there
Right.
was a bit of a disconnect. But I think over the years, like seeing what I've experienced and the path that I've been able to carve out for myself, the moves that I've been able to make. Like I said, I grew up in Canada, in a very small town, and then moved to a larger town, and then moved away for university, and then moved to the United Kingdom. I lived in London for a long time. I had a whole slew of international experiences, and then I moved back to Canada, reset, and then I moved to the States. I live in Los Angeles now. So, I think given the moves that I've been able to make and the successes that I've been able to have and the relationships I've been able to develop with people in my industry, um, I mean, I know they're proud. They say it to me, which I'm so grateful for. But I also think, like, there's an entrepreneurial spirit that we as artists need to have. And I think that's something that my father especially, I think he really respects that because he's an entrepreneur, he's a businessman, carved out his entire business on his own, without anybody really giving him a handout. And
Hmm.
that's a parallel to how I've been able to pursue my career as an artist.
Right, right. Let me throw a question here. Had your dad
Hmm.
told you, "Hey, listen, I don't want you to be an actor. I want you to be a lawyer. I'm not going to support that idea of yours. I'm not going to encourage that." Now, do you think that would have changed anything, or would you
So
still
if he
pursue that?
if he had been like even more like put his
Yeah.
foot
Put
down,
his foot
and
down and
yeah,
say,
if he had,
listen, you're not doing that. I'm not paying for you to go study art.
yeah,
I want you to study law. And I mean, I'm asking you this because a lot of actors, they become actors
hmm
without their parents' support.
yeah.
Um,
I think if I'm perfectly honest, I think in my earlier days, in my younger days, I probably would have obliged. I probably would have said, fine, I'll go to law school, and then found every opportunity to be on stage while I was studying. And then I know, like, I work with a lot of actors, and one of my clients, excuse me, has come to acting quite late in their lives after having a whole career as a medical professional. And I think that's actually really valuable. I do. I really think that people who have full and experienced life, who have a full life, experienced life, I think there's a lot of value with the perspectives they're able to come into this business with, right? Like, one of my favorite things to say is the most interesting humans make the most interesting actors. And if you don't have
wow.
any kind of life resource or experience, like, you don't have the spectrum to draw from. It's like people say this all
Like a
the time.
background, like a
Well, yeah,
repertoire,
and
right?
absolutely. Like, if you've never fallen in love before, then all you have is the idea of what it feels like to fall in love. If you've never traveled outside of your hometown, you have an idea of what it could be like to live abroad. But if you've never actually fallen in love or moved abroad, you're not going to know what that feels
Wow,
like.
these
And
are
those
strong
feelings,
words.
I mean, look,
It
I
makes a
really
lot of
do
sense.
believe that our life experience is what gives us the capacity to talk about things, to do things, and specifically from the perspective of an actor, our our job at its most fundamental core is to tell human stories about human experiences. Yes, the imagination is so important and it is so vital. But if we have a depth of emotion or an access to emotion because of experience, we just have that much more to play with. It's like if you think of a painter, right? Or like a pianist, right? If you're only given 12 keys on a keyboard, yeah, you can make beautiful music with those 12 keys. But if you're given the full, what, 38, right?
88.
88. That's what I meant to say, 88.
It's okay.
The full 88, um, you can play completely different kinds of music, right? Or if you're talking about a painter, if you're given only the primary colors, red, yellow, blue, yes, you can mix them up and make all different kinds of colors. That's great. But if you're given a whole palette of 50 different shades, like, just, your general creativity gets amplified because you can play with so many
You
different
have more
shades.
to play around with, right? You have more to go
Yeah.
wild and crazy. That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
that's
Go
my
wild and
yeah,
crazy.
now that's my question for you. Have you ever like had a role that you wanted to play, but you were like, okay, I've never had this experience in my life, so I need to go out there and do something so I learn what it feels like so I can actually play that character. Has that ever
Yes.
occurred to you?
And yes. So this was the pivotal moment in my life where I decided that I needed to be an actor. I will also caveat this by saying that there's a method of acting where the entire foundation of it is to essentially live as the character, to embody all the realities of the character in your real life and to draw from that. And I don't subscribe to that. I think
Okay.
the combination of life experience and imagination is where the real artistry of being an actor comes. And I
Hmm.
just I don't think it's healthy for a, an actor's own well-being, for their mental health, for their relationships with others, and for the safety of others, for actors to dive in so immersively 24/7. So that's just my little caveat. Um, in terms of an experience, when I was in high school, I was in a play called Rafter the Medusa, and it was written in the 80s about the AIDS epidemic in New York. And it was this AIDS like self-help group, basically, or like not self-help group, but like support group.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I played a character who was a homeless junkie with AIDS, whose daughter had just died,
Sorry, how old are you back
and
then?
I was
Six,
17.
17. Okay.
17. Um, and this character had just been released from prison.
Look at that.
So like a lot that I have never had access to.
Thank God.
And
Thank God for that.
no, I
Right.
did not go explore what it's like to be a
Right.
prostitute. No, I
Right.
did not go like explore what it feels like to take drugs or whatnot.
Some actors
But
do
what
though, right?
I know, and that's what I'm saying. I don't subscribe to that.
Mm-hmm.
What I did do was, for other reasons, I was going to the hospital on a semi-regular basis. And I was in a waiting room one day, and because of the research that I was doing, I was much more familiar with the symptoms for AIDS patients and their symptoms. So I was sitting in a waiting room and I saw this guy, and I knew that there were some I knew that there was an AIDS clinic in the hospital. So I just clocked this guy and left it at that. And then a couple weeks later, I see him again, and he's got a few lesions on his face. And I was like,
Oh.
oh, I wonder if he does. And then I think it was the third or the fourth time that I saw him. We were sitting next to each other and we started talking, and we're getting to know each other. And he told me that, yes, he has AIDS. And I was telling him what I was doing. And I was in my school play about AIDS. And so we started talking and we got to know each other. And he gave me so much insight into his own experience. He was so generous, and his partner was there, and we got to meet him. Or I got to meet him, and then the opening of our show came, and his partner showed up, but he
Wow.
didn't,
Oh
because
my
he had
God.
passed away.
Oh my
So like
goodness.
that was a really personal connection that I was able to create in my real
Wow.
life, that I was able to use in my work. The other thing that I did was oh my God, I can only imagine how my parents felt when they saw this. I had to teach myself, I had to learn how to inject myself because there was a moment in the show where I had to like put a strap around my arm and pretend like I was about to shoot up drugs.
Right.
So I was in my bedroom practicing when my dad came in and freaked out
Oh my goodness. I'm
and
gonna start
forbade
using
me.
that. I'm gonna start, hey, this is for the sake of acting.
But yeah, he like, basically was like he forbade me from having the equipment in the house. I was like, yes, that was my mistake. I'm sorry. I'm
Wow.
sorry. I'm sorry. So I had to take it to school, and I
This is
practiced at
awesome. I
school.
didn't know it worked like that. When I see people smoking in movies, some of
Hmm.
them are not smokers in real life. Now, and I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that some actors, they do get addicted to smoking because of the scenes they do,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. There's a fine line between what you do for your art as an actor and what you do for yourself as a human. Like if an actor is being asked to smoke on set for a role, their human body is experiencing that. I know there are workarounds and like fake
Yeah.
cigarettes and stuff.
You can't fake that,
Um,
right?
but I mean, yes, you can
Can
actually. Like
you?
yeah, that's like one of the things that if you look at more contemporary content,
Okay.
you will see a lot less. Um, you will see a lot less smoking from like on screen. Um, so I think it's really important to like create that separation. Um, because we do like the work we do puts us in a position of being affected by the reality that we are recreating. You know, like if I'm angry, my body is actually going to feel angry. If I'm sad, my body is actually going to be sad. Excuse me. So I think it's even more important now for actors. I mean, not even just now, but like forever. It's always been important for us to take care of our physical and our mental well being because our bodies and our brains don't know the difference, or like our emotional selves don't know the difference. It's our brain that
Wow.
has to retell the story. And like we have to find ways of letting go, decompressing,
Right.
shedding.
How I was gonna ask you that very question. Here's the thing: I'm not an actor, like I said, but I love your work so much. I love what you do. I'm a movie lover. I'm fascinated by movies and TV shows and plays. I think it's like a fantastic kind of art. And every now and then, I will read a script and I will try to act. Like I'm terrible at it. This is ridiculous. I'm terrible, but I will try to do that anyway because I love it. And here's the thing: when I have to play a character that is angry, I force myself to be in that mood, and I'll spend the rest of the day in a bad mood. I'll spend the rest of the day angry because I forced myself into that. Or if I have to be sad, if I have to play a sad character, I'll spend the rest of the day sad because, like you said, I can't separate. I can't say, hey, this is my character and this is me, so I cannot separate that. So it's a mixture of feelings. So, and I believe like the more you practice, the more the better equipped you are with separating those feelings. I believe, right?
Totally. It's 100% of practice as much as it is also finding tools that can help you with that practice. I mean, I remember early days having an experience where I did not know how to separate my experiences that I was going through on stage and in preparation for the role, and then how it was affecting me in the rest of my life. Like I wasn't able to let go of this character when I was leaving the theater. So it's really important to find ways that you can like split.
Right.
This is for me in service of the character and my work as an actor. And then when it's time for me to leave rehearsal or leave set, this is what I'm going to do for myself to let that go. Almost like a pair of shoes. It's part of my therapist and I came up with this. And shoes are really important for this very reason. Shoes come on for the character, do the work. Shoes come off. I put my shoes on and I walk out the door as me, so that my experience of living as this character is intimately connected to whether it's this wardrobe
Beautiful. It's
piece
beautiful.
or this music even is a really great trigger for entry and like exit into yeah, it's really cool to be able to come up with those kinds of, and I call it like the entry and exit into character.
Okay. Okay. Wow, I like the preparation. I like the whole, like let's take off the shoes now because now you're a different person. Now you're you. I'm me. So I'm not the character anymore.
Yeah.
How nice. How nice.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that for how long? Since you were 17, 16?
Yeah, I'd say like my formal training was throughout high school and then university.
Mm-hmm.
And then really when I moved to England, I went to drama school for like, 2 years and really committed to it.
Right. Is it different when you're on stage? Is it a different feeling when you're on stage in front of an audience and that when you're like behind a camera in a set, for example?
Totally. I mean, it's like you play the piano, it's like giving somebody a guitar. It's like you
Really?
can still make music. The principles of making music are the same,
Okay.
but the mechanics are quite different. So like the biggest difference being in theater, when you're doing a play, we're afforded this luxury of being able to play the character's story from beginning, middle to end, if that's how the play is written.
Right.
But essentially, once the play starts, like once the curtain rises and the show begins, you play it until it's done, right? 2 hours, let's say, or 1 hour, or whatever it is.
Right.
With film, it is all over the place. It's almost like it's completely deconstructed. So I've been on, I was on, it is. I mean, it's more of a brain exercise, because if you're starting at the midpoint of, let's say you're shooting a movie, if you start at the midpoint of the movie, you need to know, we as the actors, we need to know where we are in our emotional journey, in the storyline, in the arc of our characters, in the relationships. Do we know the big secret's been revealed, or has it been revealed? Has the big bad happened? Like, you need to be able to track all of those things so that when the midpoint comes and that's your first scene, everything that happens in, let's say, the first 40 pages, you've got living inside you, because that this moment is happening with all of that having happened. Right. So it's a very different exercise in character development and story development for the character, because it gets completely removed from its context.
Right. It makes sense. It sounds more challenging.
It's also easier. It is challenging. It's also easier to compartmentalize. So like, oh, we did this scene already, I don't need to go there anymore, right? Like, or we're gonna shoot this at the very end, so I'm not gonna, it's a really intense scene, so I'm gonna leave it till the very end. Or we've already done the really intense work, I can breathe a little bit more and like approach this in a different way. Or this was such an emotionally intense moment for me and my character, I need to go home and I'll come back to work tomorrow. And
wow,
that's another place where, as actors, we need to advocate for ourselves or like talk to producers. And usually if there is a really demanding emotional scene, whoever's come up with the schedule will hopefully give the actors a bit of a break right after that moment, because it can be very exhausting.
So listen, you grew up in Canada, but you're not from Canada originally, or are you? Are you from Canada originally?
Born and raised. Yeah.
Born and raised in Canada. Right.
Yeah.
And so did you have to, at any point in your life, did you have to change your accent or learn a different accent? How was that?
Okay, so I hear this all the time. Canadians, oh, we don't have an accent. I'm like, yes, everybody has an accent.
Everybody has an accent. Thank you very much.
Everybody's from a place, right? Everybody is influenced by the place, by the surroundings, and by the people that they're surrounded by. So
beautiful.
My upbringing, my parents are of Indian origin, raised in East Africa through a British system. So my dad, for the longest time, had a very British lilt, kind of more Scottish actually, because he went to school in Scotland, but he had this like British Scottish lilt to his voice. So there were things that he would say to us that had a very British quality to it. We also, as I mentioned, I grew up in a small town, so it was very provincial. I didn't start speaking English until I started going to school. I started speaking Gujarati, which is a dialect of Hindi, at home until I went to school.
Okay.
It's like that was a whole thing. When it comes to accents, I've had such an interesting relationship with like my natural accent, and it has definitely changed over the course of my life. I didn't pay much attention to it, to be perfectly honest, until I moved to England, and everyone thought I was American. And I was like, I am not American. I am Canadian. It's so different. And they're like, no, you sound American. I'm like, but I'm not American. So I feel like so much a part of my accent identity has been about demonstrating what I am not as opposed to what I am.
Right.
I'm not American. I'm Canadian. Okay. So I moved to England and then I became immediately conscious of the fact that I sounded different to everybody around me. And I was being taken less seriously, or that's how it
Really?
felt. Yeah. I would, there was like
That's
days, I
awful.
remember I was at a restaurant and I was asking for a glass of water, and the server was like, "Excuse me."
Oh,
I was
come
like, "I'd
on.
like some water." Yeah. Like it was literally that kind of, "Oh, come on, for Christ's sake. Like, give me a glass of water. Water. Is that what you want? Water?" You know?
They do it on
So
purpose. Come on.
I know they do. But that's exactly it. It was like doing it on purpose, and it was really insulting, and it
Right.
was really destabilizing for me emotionally
Mm,
because it made me incredibly self-conscious of the way that I sounded. And I vowed, I'd always loved playing with accents because I was always surrounded by people who spoke differently.
right.
And
Right.
I had a knack for it because I also speak different languages.
You
So
do. Yes.
I do. So like through language, I was able to adopt the ability to sound differently, right? Like when I spoke French, I sounded differently than when I spoke Spanish, and then when I spoke Gujarati, like all these different languages, right?
Listen,
So
do you have to be a genius to be an actor?
no, no,
Come on. How
definitely
many
not.
languages do you speak again?
I comfortably I speak four.
Four
Yeah, I can
languages. Look at
comfortably
that.
speak four.
So
Yeah,
that's
definitely English, I'd
English?
say. Yeah.
That's English? Or what?
English, Gujarati, French, and Spanish.
Wow. Which one do you think is the
Yeah,
most difficult?
Gujarati.
Really?
Yeah.
Could you tell me like a sentence? Any sentence.
Oh, ગુજરાતી મારી માં સાથે હું બોલું છું, પણ અહીંયા કાંઈ નહીં. So I said Gujarati is a language I speak with my mom, but here there's nothing.
Oh,
Like I don't have anybody to speak to.
that's really
I
beautiful.
do, but
And sad at
um
the same time.
I know, right? So sad.
Yeah.
Um but I'm not as I'm not as strong in my Gujarati. That's probably why it's harder too, because I'm like I understand it perfectly and I can speak it in conversation, but because I don't have it around me all the time, I don't hear it,
Right.
which I could do better at on my own.
Right.
But
Right.
that's another point.
So let me understand
Um,
this. So you're in England and you're trying to get
mhm,
roles in England because you're an actor. And then
yeah.
your roles, did they have your characters, did they have to have a British accent, or did you have
Uh,
to switch accents to play them?
well, I mean, here's what I was getting at earlier, which I think is, if I'm honest, I think it's quite fascinating that I was put in a position, or I was in a position where I started becoming hyper conscious of how different I sounded. And I made a deeply concerted commitment to learning how they sounded so that
Okay.
I wouldn't be perceived as much of an outsider.
Wow.
So amongst my friends and amongst my fellow students at drama school, I would speak normally and so forth. But when I would go out into the world, I would so often switch immediately to a British accent because I just felt like people treated me differently. It was such an
Really,
interesting
Farah.
exercise. And then whenever I'd come back to Canada, I remember the first time my brother said to me, "Stop talking like Madonna, just talk like normal." I was like, "Oh yeah, I need to like let go. I need to let go of that way of speaking because that's not appropriate here." A lot of people call this switching, which is a very real experience for many people who have either lived in a bunch of different places, who are, outsiders in wherever they are, and specifically for people of color, switching the way that we speak depending on who we are speaking to, which is when it becomes very loaded. Because I remember having this reckoning moment with myself where I was like, why do I feel the need to sound British when I am there? Because sounding British makes me feel smarter. makes me feel more accepted. That was hugely problematic to me. But all my life experience and all of the evidence that I had gathered pointed to the reality that when I speak in this way, I'm treated better. It's like when I go to the airport, if I'm wearing joggers and trainers, I get treated one way. But if I'm dressed a little bit more nicely, I get treated completely differently. It's like, it's frustrating, don't get me wrong, but it's such a human experience that we immediately judge, we immediately make assumptions about people. And I am the kind of person growing up that I have always wanted to belong. And what is the quickest and easiest way to belong? It's to show that I fit in, to act like them. I mean, full circle, right? Why do I love acting? Why do I love being an actor? It's because I get to play pretend that I can experience a way of being that is not who I am. The flip side to that is it's taken me time to also come back to me and be honest with who I am and what is authentic to me, what is truthful to me in the grand scheme of
Right.
all of these movings and shakings and, different kinds of experiences that I've been so lucky to have in my life.
Because it puts things in perspective, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Do you feel that when you switch accents, you also like change personality?
Yeah.
Do you
Oh,
feel that?
100%. Yes. Oh my gosh, 100% yes. Who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody yesterday about this. I was like, when I speak French, I just feel like there's this like different version of me that comes out. And I actually did a voice job this morning in French, and my husband's an audio engineer, so he was doing the engineering bit for it. And he said to me afterwards, he was like, I've never heard you like that. That was a completely different version of you. And I was like, yeah, because when I speak French, it's like a different aspect of me comes through, which is so cool. Like I find that so fascinating.
Right.
That all of these things all of these perspectives and these ways of being in the world live inside me. They just come out in different ways.
Right. Not only an accent, but also the language itself. So I believe that when you speak French or Spanish, your personality is also different.
Totally.
Yeah. For me, like every time I speak Portuguese, my native language, people are like, "Oh my gosh, you sound like a completely different person." Not like a completely different language, like another person in front of me right now. So it is really, really interesting. This is a question that I've been meaning to ask you. What tips do you have for people who are in their early 30s and they would like to, see what it feels like, to act or to take acting classes, or if they're too afraid, is it too late? Can they still do it? Do you have any tips like, oh, come on, go for it, or come on, no, it's too late, come on, do something else? What would you say about that?
First of all, I would say, and I know it's going to sound like a cliche, but it's true.
Bring it
It is
on.
never too late. It is never too late.
That's good.
Excuse me. There are people on screen and on stage of all different walks of life, and we always need to see all different kinds of people on our screens. Always. So the first thing, that's the first thing I would say is it's never too late. The second thing I would say is take the class. If you're scared, that means you need to do it. So sign up for that class. Take the improv class. Get the training. Because here's the thing. When it comes to any kind of artistry, when it comes to any kind of skill, there's a portion of it that is innate talent, right? Some people just have an innate ability. It's like my innate ability to live with a calendar by my side. Like it just comes to me naturally. That's one half of it. The other half of it is the practice and the training and the commitment to developing the craft, so that, especially for the work of an artist, like as an actor, relying on your instincts all the time is the quickest way to burn out and the quickest way to have inconsistent results. If you want consistency in your work, you have to have a bag of tools that you can rely on consistently, so that, especially like as an actor, you can recreate moments every single time and trust that you're not overstraining your body or your voice, for example, or your emotional well-being. Like if you have to do a crying scene,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to go back to like the most emotionally raw part of your life every single time. Right? Like having pain in your life is useful because it tells you what it feels like to be in a state of pain. But if you have the tools and the experience and the training to know how to get to that place of pain without having to go through your psychology, you can do it time and time again. Yes, your body will be exhausted, so there will be a time limit, but the training, the technique is reliable as can be, to get you back to that place repeatedly in a safe way, so that you're not harming yourself in the long run.
Right.
So training would be the second thing. And then the third part would be to go out and do it. Because if you're just doing it, like we were talking about earlier, if you're just doing it in the privacy of your home,
yeah,
it's great for practice. But if your art isn't being shared with people, I don't think it's fulfilling. I really don't believe that art is meant to be kept to ourselves. For the full effect of it, it needs to be shared.
Right. And this is something
those are
that
the
I
three
love
things
so
I would
much,
say.
like every time I think about, every time I see like those behind the scenes and those making of scenes, I go like, oh my God, this is, I know this is not perfect. I know that being there is something completely different than being like sitting on your couch, just watching it. Oh, that's beautiful. I know that it involves a lot of work, and I know it's hard work. But man, I admire what you do so much. And
Thanks.
yes, where can I watch you? So you mentioned Apple TV. Where else can we find you?
Yeah. So I'm on season 3 of C on Apple TV. I'm on the first season. I'm on the current season of Quantum Leap on NBC. So you'll see me at the beginning of the season, and hopefully more. I'm in the voice world, so like I've done a few video games. I was on Call of Duty Modern Warfare,
Wow.
which is a big game. I have another one coming out. I'll be able to talk a little bit more about it once I know more about it.
Right.
But I will. There is a game that I'm super excited about called Thirsty Suitors, which will be released in June. You can, if you look it up, Thirsty Suitors online, you'll see the trailer. It's really fun. It's about a South Asian woman who returns home for her cousin's wedding or her sister's wedding. And the gameplay is all through dance battles, skateboarding, and cooking challenges. And every level is a different ex from her life. The ultimate goal being reconciliation with all of her exes and self-fulfillment.
Right.
The motto, or like the log line for the game, is oh shoot, what is it? It's something like confront your exes and disappoint your parents.
Ooh.
So it deals with a lot of like South Asian family dynamics, and it's really fun. It's very irreverent, and it's in a very interesting, like kind of 90s style of animation. So you should check that out if anybody's into gaming. It's really fun.
How awesome. Fantastic. Are you on Instagram? Can my listeners follow you?
I am. It's very straightforward. It's at FA_ME, Farah Merani.
Uh-huh.
And that's really the only social that I am involved
Right.
in. I'm on TikTok as Farah Merani. You could probably find me there, but
Do you
I'm
do
not the most
TikTok
active on there.
dances on a daily
I
basis?
don't. I've never done a TikTok dance. Maybe I should make that a goal for this year is to do a TikTok dance. I think I might do something. I did a lot of things with my cat. I'm obsessed with my cat.
Really? You have
My
cat
dog. Yeah. I have a
and
cat and a
dog?
dog and a dog. And they're really
Do
fun.
they
They're
get
so
along?
funny. Like cats and dogs. I now understand why that's a thing.
Right, right.
They have like I was gonna say they respect each other, but they really don't. Like the cat's always in the dog's face. The dog is always afraid of the cat. Um, they're funny. They're really funny together. So I have a bunch of cat and dog videos on my TikTok.
That's funny. That's funny. That's great. Well,
Yeah.
Farah, thank you. Thank you so, so much for your presence. It's been a treat. It's been great. I loved knowing like the process, how you got to be an actor. Oh, by the way, what do you, besides work, what do you like to do for fun? What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun?
Yeah.
I do
What
lots of
does
stuff.
Farah do for
I
fun?
love, I'm so blessed to be in LA where we get to go hiking. Like there's
Oh
amazing
man.
hiking here, which I really enjoy. I love yoga. I really like podcasts. I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I love dancing. I mean, that's hands down one of my favorite things is to go dancing.
Right.
And I really enjoy cooking. And that's another big thing for me. I really, really enjoy cooking. So some of the things that I entertain myself with. And I love fashion. So like I'm always perusing, creating Pinterest boards and, looking at what other people are doing.
Well, I believe like there are a lot of exotic dishes you can play around, being,
Hmm.
who you are and having the background you have. I believe it's a lot of
Hmm.
a rich cuisine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a little different from correct me if I'm wrong, but a little different from Canadian food per
Ooh,
se.
Canadian food. What is Canadian food?
Is it like mashed potatoes with?
I mean, I guess to a certain degree. It depends who you ask, because, like, I mean, this is a whole other conversation, but like the Canadian identity is so expansive and it's so
Right.
varied and multicultural. It's like, if you were to go to Toronto, for example, and to say like, okay, what is local cuisine? They'd be like, well, where do you want to go? Little India, Koreatown, little Italy. There's a little Portugal. There's a little Ethiopia. Like all of these are considered local cuisines.
Wow.
So like Canadian food, I mean, I guess some of it could be considered like whatever's locally grown and sourced and that kind of thing, but there are
Mm,
just so many influences. I think that's partly why
that's
it is
awesome.
quite an exciting place
That's
to
awesome.
have
That's
culinary
awesome.
experiences.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Listen, whenever you're in Brazil, this is where I'm based. Whenever you're in Brazil,
Ah,
hey Dan, I'm in Brazil. Give me a call. We go out for a coffee and we
I
grab a
will.
bite. Please do, please do. It'll be
I
like a
will.
tremendous, tremendous pleasure. Farah, thank you
And I offer it to
so
you the other
much.
way. If you're
Oh
ever in
man,
LA,
that's
hit me up.
awesome. That's awesome. I certainly
Yeah.
will too. All right, or
Yeah.
maybe we can yoga together or something.
There you go.
Thank you so, so much. I will certainly be contacting you on your Instagram. I want to follow your page and expand on that. So thank you so much. I wish you all the best,
Thank
of luck.
you.
May 2023 be like the best year for you. And pretty much that. Thank you so much for your
Hey,
presence.
I love it.
Loved it. Every little
Thank
second.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. This was a wonderful conversation.
Have a
So appreciate
wonderful,
it.
wonderful week, Farah. I'll be talking to
too.
you soon. I'll be writing to you
Sounds
soon.
great. I love it. Okay.
Kisses.
Take care.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye bye. See ya.
Bye bye.